Welcome to the Joy Lab podcast, where we help you uncover and foster your most joyful self. Your hosts, Dr. Henry Emmons and Dr. Aimee Prasek, bring you the ideal mix of soulful and scientifically sound tools to spark your joy, even when it feels dark. When you're ready to experiment with more joy, combine this podcast with the full Joy Lab program over at joylab.coach.
Hello, I'm Henry Emmons, and welcome to Joy Lab.
And I'm Aimee Prasek. Here at Joy Lab, we infuse science with soul to help you build your resilience and uncover your joy. So today we are introducing or reintroducing our Roots of Resilience series. We did this series about a year ago, but we've grown so much since then. A lot of folks haven't heard this, and it's a big part of what we do here. So over the next several weeks, these encore episodes will drop into your podcast feed. If you caught them last year, I really encourage you to listen again. You will be listening with a different perspective, and I'm confident that you'll connect with something new in a way that supports your resilience. And if you didn't catch these episodes last year, don't miss them. Seriously, these are foundational aspects of resilience that we need to give attention and care to. Also, I want to let everyone know that we will be adding our resilience training program to our NMH community this summer. You may have heard talk about this. And that's another reason I think we wanted to give a refresh with these roots, because they are an important foundation for our resilience training program. Do you want to speak a little bit to that, Henry?
Sure. So we always start our podcast episodes by saying that our purpose really is to help you build your resilience and uncover your joy. And this is the build your resilience part, which, as Aimee said, this is really foundational. It's so much more likely that we can build a joyful life if we're starting from a foundation of resilience. And resilience and joy are not exactly the same thing. They're interrelated, and they're both super important. But resilience, if you feel yours is off, it's always a good place to start. So very briefly, these roots of resilience really are of the foundation of a lot of my work and now our work in Joy Lab and Natural Mental Health. And it really grew out of my growing understanding that we human beings are complex, but we're complex in a good way, in the sense that we are whole. We're whole beings. And that wholeness really has to be appreciated and supported if we want to create the kind of lives that we really want. It came in part by recognizing that so often we don't do a great job of that in healthcare, of really recognizing and honoring the whole persons that we are. And so these roots, there are 7 roots of resilience that we've articulated and described, and I won't list all of them right now because you'll discover them all in the series, but really briefly, they come in 3 interrelated categories. And we put them into categories only because it helps us to think about this complex wholeness that we are, not because they're separate or different, but our minds kind of need to do that. So there are several, we list 3 of them, that fall under the category of the body, or you might say the physiology or our chemistry or just our physical nature. And these are so important to have in place, because if they're off kilter, if they're not in place, it's really hard to develop the others. So we start with the body generally, and that includes really focusing on the key pieces like movement, nutrition, sleep or rest, and kind of toning down the stress response. And then the next kind of broad but super important category is what we might call the mind. And we give our own definition of that, but it really encompasses our thoughts and our emotions. Those are two very closely related parts of our inner lives that we often don't give enough attention to it. So we want to give it more attention, and we want to really focus on ways to embrace that part of ourselves, but also take back our power in those realms, because so often it's the thoughts and emotions that kind of lead us astray, if you will. And then the third category is what we might call heart or soul, or this deeper part of ourselves that is, I think, is really the ultimate foundation of joy. But it's also part of resilience. It's that bridge between the two, if you will. So it's really being able to cultivate a greater sense of openness and connection and ability to take in, to receive all of these things that we're talking about constantly in Joy Lab that help us to really create this authentic and joyful life.
I love to, you just noted taking back our power. I think that's so true. And just these caring for our basic functioning and identifying that we are wired for resilience. This is who we are, and that we have agency there, that we can build our resilience back. We can tap into our joy. And maybe as Henry was discussing as well, you notice some parallels perhaps between the pod course and what he was saying about body, mind, spirit broken up into that type of distinction. And so I want to note that our resilience training program, as I said, we're adding that to our NMH community this summer. And it is similar to our pod course, very similar, that we offered in November and December here at the podcast. And we delivered that through the podcast because we think everyone should have access to resilience tools and education. Hard stop. This should be required education in K through 12, but that's a whole nother conversation. So if you aren't able to join the community where the resilience training program, as it's sort of enhanced, that will sit, you still have access to these resources, this education. And I'll put the link to the pod course series in the show notes, so you have that. If you are able to join the community, you'll not only help us keep this podcast free and accessible for all, but when we, open this in the summer, you'll be able to move through it within your account, in our Natural Mental Health app. It'll track your progress. There'll be some extra motivation, some more step-by-step movement through the program. So either way, we want you to move through this because it's who you are. You are resilient, even if you don't feel that way right now. So I do hope you'll join us here for this series. I hope you'll join us in the community for the full program. Most of all, we hope you resonate with these roots of resilience. We hope they serve you well, because that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. We're here to help you tap into your resilience, tap into your joy, and then to expand on it. So with that, let's close this episode. I'll share some wisdom from author Catherine DeVry. I just love the imagery in this quote. Here's what she wrote. Like tiny seeds with potent power to push through tough ground and become mighty trees, we hold innate reserves of unimaginable strength. We are resilient.
Thank you for listening to the Joy Lab podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, visit joylab.coach to learn more about the full Joy Lab program. Be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Please remember that this content is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide medical advice and is not a replacement for advice and treatment from a medical professional. Please consult your doctor or other qualified health professional before beginning any diet change, supplement, or lifestyle program. Please see our terms for more information.